could have waited all day. We could have had a media circus, said the deputy chief of staff at the White House. But we took decisive action, and it's a good example of how to respond in this atmosphere. Jim Messina didn't first look at the whole videotape, didn't first ask if the decisive action might have really been like sending Dreyfus to Devil's Island. It's a good example of how to respond in this atmosphere. This atmosphere. This atmosphere exists because the people around him have let this president be dumbed down. The question used to be, fired up, and the rhetorical answer, ready to go. The question now is, fired up. The answer now is, not ready because we can't afford the impression of not looking sufficiently presidential and neutral and inviting a media circus in this atmosphere. To paraphrase President Reagan's Secretary of the Interior, James Watt, Mr. Messina, Mr. Emanuel, everybody else in this White House who's gradually remodeling this president into something generic and safe and electable in 2012 by the slimmest of margins on the strength of being as media circus free and better suited to this atmosphere as possible. Let Obama be Obama. And that advice must be heeded by one man above all others. Can you give us specifically some things that he said that would help us? Mr. Gibbs was asked at this afternoon's press briefing. Well, again, Mr. Gibbs replied, I think he talked about the fact that a disservice had been done here and an injustice had happened. He was quoting you, Mr. President. Fired up, a disservice has been done. Fired up, an injustice had happened. Mr. President, it is beyond admirable that in your position and at this time of fearful division in this country, that you view yourself as president of everyone, not, as your predecessor did, only as the president just of those who voted for you. But you must, at long last, sir, come to terms with the fact that while you have spent these first 18 months and 1 day of your presidency bending over backwards for these other people, they have spent this same time insisting you are not actually president, or you are a communist, or you are bent on destroying whatever is starring this week in the paranoid fantasies churned out by Fox News and the farcical Breitbart. If only for the arrogance of the irony that this crusade to prove you a foreign influence is led by an Australian named Murdoch and his sons who pretend to be British, and his second largest shareholder, Prince Al-Walid bin Talal Al Saud of Saudi Arabia. Just for that, you, sir, must stand up to this attack on you and on this nation. Their game plan is transparent. They can strand together all the forces of anti-black racism in this country, direct them at you and all for which you and this nation stand, and convince the great unwashed and unthinking out there that not only are they not racist, but you, Barack Obama, and Van Jones, and Shirley Sherrod, you are the real racists. And so in opposing you, they are not expressing the worst vestige of our past, they're actually standing up against it. As you stay silent and neutral and everybody's president, they are gradually convincing racists that they are the civil rights leaders and you are Police Chief Bull Connor. And then some idiot at Fox News barks and your people throw an honorable public servant under the nearest bus just for the sake of decisive action and the correct way to respond in this atmosphere. Mr. President, please stop trying to act every minute like some noble, neutral figure chairing a government of equal and dispassionate minds and contemplative scholars. It is a freaking war out here, and the imagined consensus you seek is years in the future, if ever it is to be rediscovered in this country. This false consensus has gotten us only the crucifixion of Van Jones and a racist gold-shilling buffoon speaking from the Lincoln Memorial on the 47th anniversary of Dr. King's speech. And now it has gotten us Shirley Sherrod. And your answer is to note a disservice and an injustice. Sir, get a copy of the Michael Douglas movie, The American President. When you get to the line where he says, I was so busy keeping my job, I forgot to do my job, hit the rewind button 20 times. Fired up? Fired up? Anybody? Anybody? Lastly, Ms. Sherrod, I've got no business speaking on behalf of the people of the United States. That's the president's job. But frankly, I don't know why he hasn't done this yet, so I'm going to. We all would like to apologize to you and ask you to return to work on our behalf, or if they want to make you Secretary of Agriculture, especially White House Deputy Chief of Staff. The president could use somebody like you in there tonight. But mostly I want to thank you for being honorably, quietly, and until these last few days, anonymously, such an outstanding American. Long ago, there was harm done to you, and you responded as nearly all of us on this planet would have. And one day, 24 years ago, you realized that you were not ending that harm. You were just passing it along through vengeance and blindness, and you stopped. You stopped not with fanfare, nor with self-aggrandizing tears, nor in publicized rehab, nor on a political stage. You just stopped. And then you rejoined the righteous who occupy every corner of our great nation, and indeed every corner of our politics. And even in this hour of undeserved trial and abuse in your devil's island of the mind, you have maintained your dignity and your honor. Only one of us in all of this, from the mountebanks to the presidential advisors to the unchallenging reporters, only one of us in all this has done her job correctly. You, Ms. Sherrod, know what decisive action is and how to respond in this atmosphere. And thank God somebody does. Good night and good luck.